Okay, so the first installment in phlebotomy, chapter 44, blood specimen collection. So this is a large chapter, and we're going to spend a lot of time really just going over the fine details for each section of the chapter. The first thing we're going to talk about is the base component, which is blood. Blood is obviously the end all be all for this unit because we're talking about blood specimen collection. So I figured it would be good to go over last year's, when you were in midterm last year, the blood from the cardiovascular system presentation, just to kind of remind you of the different components of blood and how blood works. And then I'll be uploading some videos in the future for like capillary finger stick, the venipuncture procedure, the lecture for the entire chapter, and some to help you students that are at home, like to help you with the procedure themselves. Obviously, you can't practice this procedure at home, but I definitely want you to understand what it is and how it works and why we do it. So again, the first installment, blood, the cardiovascular system, we're going to talk about this. So blood is the fluid tissue in the body. It's 55% liquid plasma and 45% formed elements. I know, that's crazy, but it is what it is, right? It's facts. So plasma, which is 55%, is the straw-colored fluid that contains your nutrients, your hormones, and your waste products, but it's also 91% water. It is 9% proteins, and then the two proteins are fibrinogen and prothrombin. And then serum is a plasma fluid after the blood cells and the clotting proteins have been removed. The serum is what's left. But fibrinogen and prothrombin are the clotting proteins that are found in plasma. They have an important role in clot formation to control bleeding. So if you ever like cut yourself and then it's starting to heal and you notice, or like it's a small cut, you notice this like sticky fluid that kind of comes to the top, that's your fibrinogen and your prothrombin creating that they kind of like that scab kind of situation is clotting up the blood. So the formed elements, which are, if we go back here, are the other 45% of the blood. The formed elements of the blood include erythrocytes, leukocytes, and thrombocytes. If you remember from midterm, cytes means cell, erythro means red, leuco means white, and thromb means, now I'm gonna not remember. Thromb means like vessel, clotting, protein. Yeah, okay, so sorry. Erythrocytes are your red blood cells, mature red blood cells specifically, that are produced by the red bone marrow. Their role is to transport oxygen to the tissues, and it's called hemoglobin. So the oxygen is transported by hemoglobin, which is an oxygen-carrying blood protein pigment of the erythrocytes. So erythrocytes are your mature red blood cells, and then hemoglobin. So we'll move on to leukocytes. They're also known as white blood cells, and they're the cells involved in defending the body against infectious organisms and foreign substances. There are different types of, or different groups of leukocytes. The first being neutrophils. They're the most common type of white blood cell. Through phagocytosis, neutrophils play a major role in the immune system's defense against pathogens, including bacteria, viruses, and fungi rather. Phagocytosis is the process of destroying pathogens by surrounding and swallowing them. If you remember, to like phago or phage is to eat or to swallow. So basically what these neutrophils do is they surround the pathogen, kind of like in Osmosis Jones, and they just devour it. They destroy it by swallowing it. Basophils are the least common type of white blood cell. They're responsible for causing the symptoms of allergies. So this is where you're going to get your like allergic reactions. These are the cells that create that. Eosinophils, they form in the red bone marrow, but then they move to tissues throughout the body. And these cells destroy parasitic organisms and play a major role in allergic reactions. So that's kind of something that's interesting about neutrophils are the most common, basophils are the least common, and then eosinophils travel to different tissue to destroy parasitic organisms and create that allergic reaction that your body has. And then there's lymphocytes, which are also formed in the red bone marrow and in the lymph nodes and in the spleen. So lymphocytes basically alert the body to foreign substances and germs that could produce antibodies and then specifically target them. So these cells specifically notify the body to say, hey, there's something in here that doesn't belong here. You need to send the eosinophils, the neutrophils or the basophils to attack. Monocytes are formed in the red bone marrow also, the lymph nodes and the spleen, and through phagocytosis, monocytes provide immunological defenses against a lot of different infections. So these are the ones too that will go out and attack whatever it is that the lymphocytes have alerted the body to. Thrombocytes are your platelets. They're the smallest formed element of the blood. They are a really important factor in clotting. So when a vessel is damaged, the thrombocytes are activated and become sticky. This action causes the thrombocytes to clump together to form a clot to stop the bleeding. So we definitely need thrombocytes, but they're also known as platelets, okay? Something else we're going to talk about throughout this entire unit is different blood types. So there are 4 major blood types. There's A, AB, B, and O. I'm not going to go through this really slowly because this information is here for you to review. And most of you probably know what your blood type is, but it is something interesting. So A, AB, and B are based on the presence of the A and or B antigens on the red blood cells. But on the other side, O has both A and B, which makes them the universal donor because there's no A and B antigens there at all. They're absent. So O has no A and B, but A, B, and B have either A and or B. So it's confusing. The Rh factor, this is interesting because a lot of us are Rh negative and a lot of us are Rh positive. So about 85% of Americans have the Rh antigen, and these are described as being Rh positive. The Rh factor was named this way because it was first found in the rhesus monkey. Have you ever seen Outbreak? Watch it. So the remaining 15% of Americans do not have the Rh antigen, and these are described as Rh negative. There's some important information that you need to consider when working with Rh negative patients, especially those that are pregnant. But one group of patients would be those that are having blood transfusions. You can't give an Rh negative and Rh positive blood. But also if the Rh factor, so if you're an Rh negative mother and the infant you give birth to is Rh positive, there's a series of shots that you have to be given to reduce the likelihood of there being some kind of problem with the next pregnancy. Blood gases. So we talk about oxygen, carbon dioxide, and nitrogen. These are normally dissolved in the liquid portion of the blood. So this diagram kind of shows, or this picture kind of shows you here how it works. O2 in, CO2 out. It's the same, we breathe it. It's the same as we breathe. It's the same in terms of blood gases. And then medical specialists, we already know, cardiologists, hematologists, and a vascular surgeon. I'm not going to talk about those because we know what they do. But yes, so these are the components of blood, and these are what you need to be aware of. When we're working with patients and doing phlebotomy and any type of venipuncture and collecting blood, we need to be aware of its components. So again, blood is the fluid tissue of the body. It's 55% liquid plasma and 45% formed elements. The plasma is 91% water and 9% protein. And then the other 45% of the blood is your erythrocytes, leukocytes, and thrombocytes. Let me know if you have any questions.